Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We're back with the podcast, the final two. Today, we have a very special guest, an MLB agent, Chris.
Very special. Very special. I'm a little nervous right now, to be honest. I'm a little got butterflies in my stomach.
You're never nervous, Oliver.
What's up, Chris? How are you?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Amazing. I mean, we're blessed to have you on the show. Everybody knows the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I appreciate it. I mean, I'll be honest. Let me be honest here. I put up the Instagram post, and Chris right away responded. Was like, I want to be on that. He set it up, and it's awesome to see that. And, this podcast is about positivity and growth, and to have someone that's already successful is amazing. So, Chris, let's start it off. How's everything? How's quarantine? How are you dealing with all this right now? The family, how's everybody doing?
Yeah, everything's going good. Obviously wish it was under better circumstances, but we got a lot of time, spend a lot of time with my family here, and which I usually do. But obviously with my job, that keeps me busy a lot of the time. But
yeah.
But I always try and spend time with my family. I got 2 little boys, so I'm always, as you know, Oliver, I'm always out playing with them or coaching them. So now I'm doing it more like private lessons as opposed to in a team setting. So it's been a little different, but it's been fun, and it's fun watching them grow in terms of playing and stuff like that. They're getting better at ball. They love to play baseball, football, basketball. So we do that a lot of the day, and
amazing. That's amazing.
So
stay active.
Very active.
Let's take it back to your humble beginnings. Where did this all start? Where did you come from? How did you become so successful how you are? Can you share that story where you started?
Sure. Yeah. I was born in Manhattan, but I grew up in North Jersey, in Bergen County. And, I've been in Bergen County pretty much my whole life. I grew up, I think just like, most kids, probably like you, wanted to play ball and be a baseball player and all those things. And, things didn't work out that way, on the field for me. Which is another story, but I always wanted to get into the business of sports, and particularly baseball, and I was blessed to be able to do that. I went to school, sports management, learned the business of sports in school, and was lucky enough to get an internship with the Mets in the front office. So I did that, and I was with the Mets for I started that when I was in school and did that for a number of years, and then had an opportunity to become an agent, and I did that after a number of years with the Mets, and then I've been an agent for now 20 years actually. So
wow,
it's amazing.
That's truly amazing.
With interning with the Mets, how were you able to know? Like, since you interned, you started off small, of course. How were you able to work your way up into certain positions, and of course even becoming an agent? Like, what motivated you to get to that level?
Great question.
Well, yeah, I always wanted to, it was funny. So I was lucky. I mean, I always wanted to work for the Mets because I was a huge Mets fan as a kid, and my dad was a big Mets fan, and we didn't miss a game and that whole thing. And then we went to so many games when I was younger and all that stuff. So I always wanted to work for the Mets. And then as I got a little older, I always wanted to be an agent. So I ended up, that's pretty much all I've ever done. That's been my whole career. So it really worked out for me. I was lucky. It's been, I guess with the Mets, I started, like I said, as an intern in scouting in minor leagues. I literally bounced around the stadium. It was at Shea Stadium back then, but, I literally bounced around the stadium. I did anything and everything. From cleaning out the closets and the bowels of the stadium. If you knew Shea Stadium, it was pretty gross. I mean, there were, God knows what, rodents and fleas.
How did you feel during that time?
So it's funny. So basically I did my internship, and then I kind of stuck around, and then I was like, well, they were like, all right, thanks for doing your internship. And I had done an internship for a couple of years. And then after that, they were like, well, thank you so much for your time. And I was like, that's not it. How is that? That can't be it. I mean, where am I going to go? What am I going to do now? And I had just been graduating school and stuff. And they were like, and I'm like, So I said to the guy who I was working for at the time, and I was like, you can't tell me there's nothing for me to do in this stadium. There has to be something. I mean, and at the time the offices were a little smaller, there were less people there. So he was like, oh, well, there's some things. I don't think you really want to do them. And I was like, I'll do them. I don't care. I just knew I had to keep my foot in the door somehow. So they were like, well, I'm going to take you downstairs. And if this doesn't like repulse you, then, and I mean, it did repulse me, but I was like, I'll do it. I don't care. And I ended up doing it. And then at a certain point, they had made some changes in the front office, and some people had been let go. And a friend of mine had been interning in PR in the public relations office at the time. Now it's media relations. But so she had been working there, and we were friendly. We got to be friends and stuff. And she was like, I saw her. She was working nonstop, and I was like, there's got to be a job for me there. There's got to, I could help them, because this is a lot of the stuff they're doing is stuff I would love to do. I was an expert on the team. I knew different things. I knew the media for a young kid at the time. So I started to, so I kind of went there. But the problem was that when I was in school, they had offered me an internship. And the old PR director was a guy named Jay Horowitz, who a lot of people know. And they wanted to hire me, and I didn't really want to do it because I had to work on Sundays, and I went to play softball on Sundays. That was kind of my thing. So I was like, so at the very beginning, I turned it down, and I ended up getting a different internship in scouting in minor leagues. So now I want to go back, and Jay really wasn't too happy with me at that time. And I kind of had to like earn my way back into his good graces. But once I did, I started working in PR. He started giving me little projects to do, and I started doing them. And then I really started integrating myself into his department and kind of earned my wings. And then I was busting my butt. I was working around the clock. I would work, get there at 9 a.m. and literally not leave till 2 a.m. if we had a home game, and then go drive back to Jersey and drive back the next morning. And you did that. You had a 10-game homestand. You were doing that every day. I mean,
that's crazy.
I couldn't keep my eyes open by the time the homestand was open. You were working 160-hour weeks.
So how do you keep the dedication where you kept focused? Like, I'm not giving up on this. Like,
well, I love my job. That was the thing. I loved doing it. So, and I started working with the players, and that's how kind of everything started going from there. And really, it's funny. I always tell this story, and people always ask me, like you guys are asking me now, like how did I kind of make my name? And really, the way I did it, there were 3 things, and you're going to laugh at all 3 of them probably. But at the time, so this is like the late 90s, the internet was just getting started. There was no like click and you can get anything you want. So the players would ask me for things. They'd be like, hey, I need to get 2 tickets to The Lion King. My parents are in town. They got to go tomorrow night. The Lion King was the hottest thing on Broadway. I'm like, no problem. I'll get them. I'd go up to my office and be like, oh, how the heck am I going to get Lion King tickets for tomorrow night? But I like started working connections and meeting people and getting to know different people and taking care of people. And that was kind of my thing. And then next thing I know, I had to hook up at the Lion King. So anybody wanted anything, they knew, come to Chris. He's going to hook you up with the Lion King. He'll get you great seats and, hook you up with tickets and the whole thing. And then I had all these networks and connections. So that was one thing I was very good at hooking people up with things. Number 2, you're going to laugh at the next 2 even harder. Number 1, number 2 of that on that list was we had, so that was when fantasy football was starting to really roll. I was really good at it, and it wasn't like it is now, same thing. Everybody could pull up, and everybody goes off the same list, and you're crossing off the guys one by one. I know football really well. I'm a very big football fan. The players would all come to me. Well, yeah, that's another thing. But I knew all the the NFL really well, and the players would come to me and be like, "Oh, I have this league. It's thousands of dollars. Can you help me? Can you do the draft for me?" So I started doing that to the point where guys were getting traded to the Mets, and the first thing they would ask was like, "Hey, where's the guy who does the football? I got to speak to that guy, Chris." So I was like, I built the name myself, like, in terms of that. So that was a whole nother thing. I had this whole thing. Like, people were like, "Oh, Chris Leible, you got to talk to Chris Leible." Even guys from other teams would be like, "Hey, I heard you're the guru. I need to know. I got the third pick. What do you think I should do?" So like that was another thing. And then the third thing, Oliver, you're gonna appreciate this, was we had an office softball team, and we would play
You and
at
your
Shea
softball.
Stadium.
You love your softball,
I love
Chris.
softball. So like it hurt me at first. Yes, with the whole thing trying to get back with the Mets. But when I started playing, the whole team was all the VPs of the company, and I be honest with you, I'm pretty good. So they loved me. They started loving me. They were like, "Oh, where's
That's
Chris? We gotta get Chris
amazing.
here." So I really made my, I kind of, they were like, "Oh, we gotta get Chris here." We were playing like we used to play WFAN or the Jets or the Islanders or the NFL, Howard Stern, the WWE. We played all these like teams. Everyone wanted to come to the Yankees. We would do like home and home. We put the Yankees. We played Yankee Stadium. We played Shea Stadium. So we would always do this, and I was good. They all wanted me on the team. So so that was another thing. Like they all got to know me. So between those three things, the players loved me, the office loved me, and then like I said, it was just like a great thing for me, and I got to meet a lot of great people and work with a lot of top of the line baseball people.
So talk to me about that. When you're playing softball with these big VPs, are you nervous or are you just loving the game? I'm playing, doesn't matter.
That's it. Yeah, I just play the game my way, and I was like,
did you trash talk? Don't tell me you were trash talking these VPs.
No. I'm not a trash talker. I'm quiet during the. I mean, I'm not quiet during the games. I mean, I get pissed at myself or whatever if I pop up a good pitch or something like that.
Yeah.
Then I'll be pissed at myself. But I'm not like a trash talker with the other team. I'm not a fan of that at all. But I would, but I'm confident in my abilities. You know what I mean? So I guess I had a little swag or whatever, so I could,
you believed in
I
yourself.
could do that. I believed in myself, so I just play my game, and it always worked out well for me.
Would you say that softball was what gave you the confidence to pursue your career, or was it like it's just?
No, it was like I said, it was a combination of all those things. So like the players were really relying on me because they were all the players were asking me for things. Like I said, guys were coming in from out of town going, "Hey, I need Broadway tickets," or "Hey, I need, I need luggage. I heard you got to hook up with the luggage company or whatever, whatever it was." So I had all these connections, and I knew how to kind of work the system, and I said the players were relying on me, then the office people were relying on me, and I was able to build a nice network and kind of make myself important,
That's amazing.
in my own little world.
Amazing.
That's amazing. So talk to me. I have one question. How does it feel to see, let's say you're an agent, you see Dominican baseball players young, seeing these guys grow into something big? Like, how does that feeling to you? Is that an amazing feeling? Like, how?
Yeah. So yeah, of course. To go and be there from the beginning, day one guys, to go see them go from a certain level and then take it to all the way to the top and become an all-star or sign a $100 million deal or all those things. I mean, of course, that's what you're in the business for, and obviously it's monetarily speaking, it's good, but obviously on a personal level, you have relationships with these people that are, you just, you can't fabricate, you know what I mean? They're real relationships that you have with these guys, and you're in situations with guys that, so for me, it was always interesting and always fun, but, I always had these, I have a million stories and I could tell, but obviously some were crazier than others. Some we're not going to talk about today, but maybe in private, I'll.
To piggyback what Ali was talking about, discovering, international stars. Obviously the biggest one we got to ask is, of course, the star that is Jose Reyes. Take us back to what it was like, discovering Jose Reyes and what it was like to dealing with an international player and representing him early on in his career before he took off.
Yeah. So Jose, Jose was from a pretty humble place, real small place in Dominican. And yep, and he and that's how, of course that's how I know Oliver. But yeah, Jose was from a small place in Dominican, and he had we had gotten word on him, and which was that that we should jump on this guy when he just first got to the States, and said I had spoken to Eddie Toledo, who was the scout that signed Jose with the Mets, who I had known because I worked in the scouting department for the Mets. So Eddie spoke real well of him, and we signed Jose sight unseen at that time, 16 years old. And
Wow.
he, I just knew just from who I had spoken to and knowing the Mets organization at that time, because I had just left the Mets at that time. I knew, he was someone special. I always went out of my way to try and reach out to him. At that time, he didn't speak a word of English. I didn't speak a word of Spanish.
But
But
that's
we
crazy. You had that
somehow,
much that much trust. Like, it
yeah,
was amazing.
we somehow had a bond from the beginning. We always had that relationship that we always were close, and somehow we
Compadres.
communicated to each other. What?
Compadres now.
Compadres now, yeah. So
You know
it
that sound?
really,
Compadres, brothers.
No,
No,
they actually,
partners.
that's,
What are they?
I'll let Chris explain that.
Oh, there's a
well,
meaning behind it.
oh yeah. So
Oh.
compadre, obviously the meaning is now, hey, we're partners or you're good friends or whatever.
Yeah.
But in I guess I know in
Dominican.
Dominican, against the Spanish, but in the Spanish
Spanish
community
community,
is
yeah.
if you baptize somebody else's, if you're the godfather, so if you baptize
Godfather.
Oh, wow.
their children.
Yes.
So yeah, I baptized 3 of Jose's daughters, and he baptized my son. So yeah, I don't, it's funny when we talk to each other, right? I mean, in
Of
Dominicans, they
course.
don't, you call him, so I don't
Compa.
call him Jose and he doesn't call me Chris.
It's compa.
Yeah, compa. Everything's compa this, compa that. So it's compadre for short. So everything is compa. So,
It's funny because when he presented me Chris, I'm thinking he's like, oh, like, my agent, this and that. He's like, compa, and he keeps saying compa and compa this. Like, oh, compa's coming. I'm like, compa, what do you mean compa? Like, is Rafa? And I realize it's Chris. I'm like, oh my God, like, this is amazing. That's dope. It's crazy to see. I mean, his birthday party last year, it was amazing to see how much love you guys have for each other. And it's honestly something so genuine, and it's awesome to see, because as well as you and as well as Jose, you guys were open hand when you guys met me. It was like part of the family right away, and it was amazing to feel that love. And how do you guys stay so genuine and so real no matter what success level you guys?
Again, I think it's funny. We were just saying about even like about softball or whatever. Like, Jose is just he's a great guy. He really is. And there's an image of him as a ball player, and there's an image of him in the media or whatever it is. But unless you know him away from that, you don't know what he's about. He's a great person. There's not too many. He's really a special person. Obviously, he's a great baseball player who's accomplished so much in his career. But he's a really special person, which people don't see. And I'll tell a quick story. My wife, she's Dominican, and when she first, before she had met Jose, and she had known about him and known about my relationship with him, and she was always wondering, like, what the heck, like, how is this even happen? Like, how does this even work? Like, how does Chris and Jose Reyes somehow have this relationship like that? And then one day we went, I brought her to his house, and Jose and I would do what we always did. We always go right to the room and we sit down and we start talking, and have the TV on, and we got whatever MLB network on or whatever it is. And, Jose's wife and my wife were in the other room talking or whatever. And then we were there for a while or whatever. We went home, and we were driving home, and she said to me, she goes, I never said this to you, but I never could figure out how you could have this relationship with Jose Reyes like that. She goes, and then I looked over and saw you sitting on the couch with him. And she goes, I realized, even though on the surface it doesn't look like you guys would be compatible at all, you guys are the same person, really, because you're just, Jose on the field is a exciting, energetic guy, but in his real regular life, he's a chill guy. Oliver, he's
Super
so
chill.
laid back. He's just, we were just sitting
Super
watching
chill.
TV, we're talking, we're going over a couple of things, for work or whatever, or some, whatever it was that we were talking about at the time. And that's what she saw, and she was like, this is just like Chris sitting at home, what he does at home on his own, so. And again, it goes back to what we were saying, Oliver, as funny as it sounds, but like with softball, like same thing. Like for me, I'm just like, on the field, it's different than, off the field, you're just, whatever. But I don't, like, I'm not a trash talker, but I'm confident, and, I might rub somebody the wrong way by the way maybe I play or whatever, or, I'm maybe a little flashier or whatever when I'm playing. So.
Nah, it's like one full circle, you know. It's like you stay true to yourself in everything, in softball, in life, in success, and failure. Can we get onto that too? I wanna hear that. When is the time you felt like was you failed? The first time you failed, or the first time you went through something that changed you? Like,
Yeah, so when I went to school, because I went from like being a small fish in a big pond to being a big fish in a small pond, and that was hard, at first because I was homecoming king and all these things at my school and
oh, really, Chris?
yeah.
I was runner up.
Wow.
I was
But I
runner up.
and then all of a sudden, like, a few months later, I'm like sitting there, I felt alone, I was lonely, I didn't, whatever. And so that was hard for me at first, but I, was able to turn that around. And then, like I said, I was like, working part-time in the closets of Shea Stadium. So that was, another time, my friends are starting to get their jobs and working and doing all these things and, succeeding. And here I am sitting here going like, when's this going to happen for me? Yeah, it's cool. I'm working for the Mets and I get a paycheck, with their logo on it, but it's not as much as I want it to be and all those things. Um, so those were hard times, but I said, I always knew it was in me to succeed and do well. And, I've always carried that with me as well. And I've always also had a lot of support from my family, especially from my parents. My mom and dad were always real supportive of me and always had my back, which, isn't always the case. Some people are more than others, but, Oliver, I know your parents, they're like
Oh my
that too,
God.
but not every parent is like that. A lot of parents are, all right, I just put you through college and I get out of the house and you've been living off me long enough. That wasn't the case. My dad was like, you stay here as long as you need to and you do what you have to do until you get what you need.
Do you feel like that has helped you become a parent too, following those
Oh
footsteps
yeah,
of your
no
parents?
question. Yeah, I mean, I just follow my dad's lead with almost everything. I lost him about a year and a half ago, but I mean, I still follow. I mean, there's the blueprint's there, and that's always going to be followed by me. Again, I think everybody has their own style or their own personality, and I mean, my dad was like a larger than life guy, but he also, I guess, his dad pushed him really hard, and
Yeah.
when he didn't succeed, his dad got on him for it. My dad was the opposite. I mean, he and kind of actually like, now looking back, I kind of wish he was a little harder on me with certain things, especially with playing because I think I could have played at a higher level. I mean,
Yeah.
my dad played college baseball. My brother played college baseball. I think I was probably better than both of them, if
Yeah.
realistically. And
Yeah.
but I
Of
just didn't
course.
have that like drive. I didn't find my drive really until I was like in my early 20s in terms of that. So I it was too late at that point to
So,
be a ball player or whatever, get a scholarship or something.
talk,
But
talk, talk about that drive. Like, where did that drive? Where did you said it lasted in your 20s? Where did you find that drive? Like, that drive, because truly, you're an inspiration, Chris. Where you at right now?
well, I appreciate it, Albert. I don't know about that, but I mean, I appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, I just think, like I said, it was always in me. It just took a longer time to surface. You know what I mean? I mean, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do with my kids. I just don't want. Listen, my kids do what they want to do, but I don't want them to leave anything on the table or have any regrets. Like, hey, why didn't you push me a little harder to go,
Yeah.
play? I could have played. I could have gotten a scholarship, or I could have, been a pro or whatever it is. So that's why we're out playing, that's why I'm out there playing with them every day. And trying to, instill that work ethic. And again, if this isn't what they want to do when they get older, then that's fine. I'm okay with that. But maybe not that okay with it, but no, but
with
if they
that
want to do something else, then they can do it.
with that being said, if you were to go back in time, say, see yourself again, what would you
Hmm.
advise yourself to say? Even though that career path that you had in mind, of course, playing professional didn't work out. What advice would you have? Even say like for kids coming up trying to play D1, and it doesn't work out for them in high school or whatever.
Well,
What advice
listen.
would you give them as a backup plan? Say,
Yeah, I mean, I think, listen, at the end of the day, that's a big dream, to have. If you got that dream to be a ball player, that's a big dream. And the reality is it's not going to come true for most people. And I say most, I mean really most. I'm not talking about 60-40 split or something. You know what I mean? It's a very small club, so to speak, that is going to make it. So I think, you always have to, yeah. I mean, I think you got to go for it, do your best, try as hard as you can, and leave whatever you have on the table. it may not happen for everybody, but some people do have that drive and the talent and the environment that it all comes together, and then they can take, turn themselves into a career or whatever as an athlete or professional athlete or whatever, or even just a scholarship, and get you through college and pay for your school to get you, a degree or whatever, and then, go from there. But I think, you always have to, definitely, like you said, have a backup plan and find something you love, at the end of the day. I mean, I think that's the most important thing, is that you want to find something that you love to do. I mean, I think if you don't, you're going to, whatever the old saying is true. If you find a job you love, you're never going to work a day in your life. And I think that's the ultimate goal.
It's great advice right there. Another question, and it goes back into, how you were able to work your way up into being at the status you are now as an MLB agent. What are some tips for college students when you were in that position to make time management a priority so you can balance both academics and, of course, goals for your career and your future?
Yeah, I mean, listen, academics has got to come first at that point. Obviously goals are great, but I mean, if you're stumbling in school and, then you're not going to, succeed, but you got to find a balance in life. I think everything in life is about a balance. You got to have time. You got to make time for everything. If you all put everything into schoolwork and don't do anything else, well, then that's probably going to go off the rails at some point, and also you're, in terms of mentally too. And I think right now, especially in the world today, you're finding a lot of, the newest plague now is, I mean, aside from obviously the obvious that's going on right now with the coronavirus, but really the newest plague is mental illness. I mean, I'm hearing young people who are, are having major problems, and you're even hearing so many sad stories of people dying or whatever it is. And that's, so you gotta keep a balance in your life. So, I mean, it's great to be doing your schoolwork and working hard, but make sure you have time for, some play or having fun or doing something you like, whatever it is you like. So if it's watching sports or playing sports or going to the mall and shopping or whatever it is going to work for you, just make sure you make time for everything. Make time for your family, all those things. I think for me, I know with my family, like, I said, I lost my dad a year and a half ago, but I never felt cheated because, I spent so much time with him. I always, we did everything together. So, that always has been, I know for me, it's been easier than it is for other people who are like, oh, I wish I did it. I wish I did that. There's really nothing I wish I would have done because I spent so much time with them. But I was always able to balance the fact that I was working my butt off in my career and I was still playing sports. And, then the last bunch of years, spending a lot of time with my kids, but I still always made sure I spent time with my parents or, whoever's important and is making time for me.
Absolutely. And I love that too. One big thing I do want to take out of that, what you just said, again, sorry for your loss with the passing of your father.
No, I appreciate it.
Family is priority. And we even, embody this. So I'm the manager for the men's basketball team. We would write down the goals and we would talk about what means the most to the players. And I think this goes around in any sport or any organization. Family always comes first. And I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah, and everybody, everybody says it all the time. I don't know if everybody lives it all the time, but I think, you said, they always say family first. And I think, I said, my clients know that. I mean, I'm trying to be there. I try to be there for all my clients at all times. But like I said, I mean, my two little boys are the number one thing, and that's it. Everybody else knows that, from top to bottom. So in my life, so at the end of the day,
that is one thing. Me and Chris have had many conversations about a lot of things, but one thing I gotta amend Chris is the love he has for his kids. That is beyond beautiful. How much support he gives those kids. He puts them in everything, and even at Jose Reyes' birthday party, which I was around them for the first time, the kids, and saw them playing basketball, and you could just see that Chris supports them, and that's something that made me look at it. Like when I have kids, that's something I want to do with my kids too. Put them in every sport, show them love. So that's one thing I do. Admire of, how you are as a father. And that's huge. I mean, that's something really.
Well, yeah, that's my number one thing, so, I mean, at the end of the day, everything else is great, but, being a dad is most important.
Of course.
So,
of course.
Well, you got a great dad too, Oliver. Don't forget.
Oh, no. No, of course. No, my father is without a doubt. But one thing I do want to say is talk to me about Miami. Where did your love for Miami come, Chris? Your love for Miami.
He's representing today. He's representing.
Always.
Look
No,
how he
so my
stood
dad
up.
played.
Look how he stood up for this. He loves
He's happy. He's confident now. Let's
he
go.
loves Miami.
Well, I was gonna try and show my shirt, but
Woo!
Yeah.
no. So my dad actually played baseball at Miami, and yeah. So that's all. So
I
the
didn't
quick.
know that.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know that?
No, you never told
Oh
me
yeah.
that.
Yeah, my dad. I think I did tell you that. Maybe I didn't. I don't know.
Come
But
on, Ali.
anyway, yeah. So well, long story short is, well, it'll probably still be long. But my dad played grew up in Brooklyn. He went to Erasmus Hall High School in Brooklyn. He was a good baseball player, and he got a scholarship to Miami. So he went down to Miami, and he played there for a couple years. Didn't really work out. The coach didn't like him. It was a whole other thing. But he ended up kind of stopping going to classes and kind of hung out on the beach and, had a good time instead of doing what he should have been doing. So he ended up kind of getting thrown out, and he ended up coming back up here. And my grandfather had a connection to NYU. So he ended up going to NYU, graduated from NYU after having to bounce back from kind of missing a lot of schoolwork. And then he ended up going to law school there as well. So, he turns out very successful, but I guess the story is, so here's how it all started. When I was a little kid, I was at a friend of mine's house, and my buddy, his dad went to Pitt, University of Pittsburgh. And at that time, I went there and on a Saturday afternoon. My dad was very big baseball fan, very big, he loved NFL. College he would have on, but it would be background. He wasn't really zeroed in on college football or anything like that. And basically, he went to. So I went to my friend's house, and the Pitt Panthers were playing, and they were playing Penn State, I think, and it was a big game, and they were all into the game. The whole family was going crazy with every play of the game, and I'm like, wow, this is so fun. This is intense. And so I went home and I said, Dad, I just watched the Pitt Panthers game with with my buddy, and I was like, that was amazing. I go, wait, his dad went to Pitt. Where did you go to school? He goes, oh, I graduated from NYU. And I was like, oh, so they have a good football team. And he just started laughing. He was like, no, NYU doesn't have a football team. I'm like, really? I'm like, oh. He's like, but he goes, but I did go to Miami before that. I go, do they have a good football team? He's like, no. And I was like, oh, well, I'm going to still root for him anyway. And literally, that was when it all was just starting in Miami. So I started, you guys are way too young for this, but before the internet era, you would get if the game wasn't on TV, which Miami usually wasn't on TV back in the day, in the newspaper the next day, you would get it would list straight on the list down the thing. It would list the school, all the game results, just a score, nothing else. So I would go to the paper my dad would bring the paper home on Sunday morning and be like, oh, Miami won. So literally the first year I really started following with them, they lost the first game and they ran the table and they got to the national championship game, which was the big, which was ridiculous. It was probably, I don't know what the odds were going to the season, but there was nobody ever expected Miami to get anywhere near that or do any of that stuff. I remember even there was a thing called, this is going to date me so bad, but there was a thing called Sports Phone. You would call a phone number and they would give you updates of the scores because you couldn't get it. So it was real-time updates. So you would call and it would charge you for a call. I would get yelled at. But they played Florida State, and the last game of the season that they won, they would get to the national championship game, and it wasn't a national championship game really, but it was the Orange Bowl, and I kept on calling, and they kicked the field goal to win the game, and I started jumping up and down. I was in my kitchen, my parents' kitchen. I was jumping up and down. I was so happy, and they got the national championship. They won, and then the whole U started basically. So it was just the right place at the right time, and I always my favorite baseball player I grew up idolizing was Darryl Strawberry, Doc Gooden, those guys with the Mets. So I would, and I love the bad boys kind of, so to speak, of whatever. So Miami was the bad boys college football, and I grew up in said northern New Jersey. Everybody was Notre Dame and Penn State and their black shoes and their hustling and then the Miami's out there and their flashy colors and dancing and partying. I'm like, oh, these guys are the best, and everybody hated them, and I loved them. That made me love them even more. So that started everything. And then I started but I started like following all their sports. So I would watch their baseball games back in the day, and basketball actually was gone for a while at Miami, but then it came back. But as I said, I just became a huge, and then through the years it went on. I ended up in the 90s. I ended up getting season tickets down there. So I'd go down there for games, and which I still have to this day for football. And then I was trying to go to baseball games, basketball games, whenever they're up here. And now I got my boys. Now they're crazy fans now too. So
If you ever need a
Amazing.
partner, Chris, if you ever need a partner, let me know.
Let me know, man, for real. I do want to transition to another topic, and I want to go back into, your role as an agent, an MLB agent. For people that don't know, Jose Reyes, played for a bunch of teams in the MLB, which is normal since, as a player, you look for a contract that suits you, and of course, that suits you to be the best fit for a team. Similarly, you could think of Vince Carter and Shaq, how they did it in the NBA. They went to numerous teams.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a bad image. So what I do want to ask is, what was the process like for you when you had to trade, have your player trade to different teams, and, what that perspective was on your end?
Yeah, so I mean, it's not technically trading. It's a free agent, so you're not in control of trades generally unless you have a no trade clause. Then that's something else, and then you can, then you get, an agent would get involved. But if the guy doesn't have a no trade clause, then the teams can trade guys as they wish, generally speaking. But in terms of free agency, yeah, I mean, you're looking to secure the player's future, obviously. But I think with at least the way I've done things and my company's done things through the years, we treat it as though the client is the boss, and you're just kind of helping them through the process. You know what I mean? We don't do it the other way around. There are some agents who are like, listen, I'm in charge. This is what I'm doing. I'll do what I decide to do. That's never been the way we've done things. We've always done it that we are gonna we're gonna do what the client wants. We're happy to give our advice, our information, use our expertise, and all those things. But so we would leave that to the client. So sometimes a client will take less money to stay in a certain place, or to whatever it is. Ideally, you want to obviously make the most money you can make, but sometimes money isn't everything for your clients. You know what I mean? So, you got to go by the client, and and then a lot of times the family's involved too, especially wives and stuff like that. And sometimes guys are happy where they are and they don't want to go, or they don't want to take on a new challenge. But I think, like you said, the life in baseball and professional sports is nowadays, where as opposed to years ago, where guys would stay with the same team for a long, long time and probably never leave unless they were traded or whatever. But it's a life that you have to be prepared for. And I mean, I don't think Jose ever wanted to leave New York, but I know Jose never wanted to leave New York, but he became a free agent, and really, I mean, he took the Marlins had offered him. The Mets never even made an offer to him, so he took the best deal he could, from the team that he got the offer from.
So one thing I want to really ask, what is the feeling when you see, example, Jose Reyes signing Miami for that enormous amount of money? What is that feeling that goes through your head? Do you feel like, wow, I saw this kid at 16 years old now signing for $100 million? What is that feeling? Is that an amazing?
No, I mean, of course, it's amazing. It's to see a kid and be where have been where he comes from, and seen where he where he grew up to end up where he is now. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's amazing, but like we say, Oliver, it's so few and far between, and he's so lucky. I'm so lucky to have represented him for this long, and and he's lucky that he was gifted the special talent and the makeup that he has to get to make into himself what he has.
It's amazing. That's amazing just to see.
Insane.
And to go back to what I was saying prior, it was just how you both, because both of you guys, how you guys stay so humble and so the normal, don't change up on anybody and just say the same people you are. It's amazing.
I always say the same thing with Jose. Jose has a lot more money in his bank account when I first met him, and his clothes are definitely a lot nicer than they were when I first met him. But real, and he's come out of his, I mean, listen, that's one thing you always see, like, you see guys, and again, I did it myself too, like we talked about, but everybody comes out of their shell at a certain point. When I first saw Jose, I mean, he didn't say it. He was really quiet. Now he's, Jose's the life of the party. He's so outgoing and friendly. His true personality eventually comes out once,
Yep.
as you get more comfortable in your own skin. And, and that's what happened with Jose, and happens with most guys, I mean, most guys are very quiet when they're younger. And then, at a certain point, they start to say, hey, listen, I belong here, or I deserve this, or whatever it is.
No, that's
Awesome.
amazing. That's truly amazing. Well, you got.
I was going to continue one more thing. We were talking about, the downs, the obstacles that you overcame. So now, what was it like to really have that feeling that, like, it was almost like the greatest moment in your career? Can you talk about some, like, the moments in your life that you will never forget in your career as an MLB agent, or whatever you accomplished on your own?
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything particular that I would just say, like, oh, this is the one thing or whatever. I mean, I said I've had a great run. I've had a good career. I've done a lot of things that I never thought I'd do. I've had, I said when I was with the Mets, it was funny. We did other things. I mean, I work with a lot of celebrities, which is always fun. Speaking to people on the phone, or dealing with, huge name actors or movie stars or singers or whatever it is. Been able to build relationships with some of them through the years. Have, some friends that are, in high places that, that, I never, that, when you're a kid, you could only dream of it. So, I mean, I said, I always say, it could happen to you. It could happen to anybody, if you put your mind to it, work hard, and enjoy what you do. I think that was always the key for me. I mean, I always enjoyed my job. And like I said, that was always my dreams, and I achieved them. So, I think that's one of the things. So, like I said, I have a lot of friends in the business. I can always still pull a rabbit out of my hat when I have to hook somebody up or take care of somebody, generally speaking, even though the world's changed a lot since I started doing that back with the Mets.
Amazing.
That's amazing. One last thing before we go, Chris. How did the internet era change the whole recruiting process? Like, you were there from the start. How did the internet era, where you can see videos now and you don't have to go to that site to watch the players?
No, it's a different thing. But you know what? At the end of the day, Oliver, and I think you know this, sometimes a guy looks, you see the video and you're like, whoa, and then you see them in real life and you're like, what is that, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Right or wrong. The internet obviously is opening a lot of eyes. Also, those diamonds in the rough, or the people you're finding, they're not happening as, as much now, because there's so much scouting and so many people out there, but so many things are covered now through the, so it's, I feel like obviously it changes the game quite a bit, but at the end of the day, you could still, I mean, you think someone's going to look at a video of Jose Altuve 15 years ago and be like, oh, that guy's going to be the best player in baseball? No one would think that. So, but look at him.
Yeah, 100%.
So you just never know when it comes to that, especially with baseball. So, other sports are a little different, but with baseball, we had, Dustin Pedroia and Jose Altuve arguably in their height, or the best player in the game, or one of the best players in the game. I mean, they're tiny guys who just, who are just great at baseball. You don't see that very often in other sports. I mean, I think, you might see a small guy succeed in basketball or football, but they'd have to be like a freak in another nature. You know what I mean? Whether they're just ridiculously fast, or, whatever it is, ridiculously good shooter in basketball, or whatever it is. So, but I think, baseball, I think obviously the internet changes everything, but it's not everything at the end of the day. You still gotta, to me, you still gotta get a scout with a good eye can find things that other people aren't going to find, and you're not going to see on video, or, some guy sitting in his mom's basement isn't going to see.
I love that you mentioned that too, about the, players, even like Jose Altuve, he's short, but like the mentality, I'm going to take it from what Nate Robinson has said. He has it on his book as well. It's hard over height. And I feel
100%.
like many scouts, sometimes scouts overlook that. You know, they just look at the physique and then the height. But you just mentioned it. You know, for someone like yourself, you look at the potential and their hard work ethic. You know, Hosea had that in basketball. Isaiah Thomas had that. And
yeah, but I don't think it's scouts that are overlooking it. I think it's the people watching, and then, you know, and especially nowadays with social media, everybody's got
True.
everybody has something to say, you know, has something to say about everything. So yeah, I mean, they
So many
this guy's
opinions.
gonna do it. But Nate Robinson, I mean, is a great example. I mean, the guy played football at Washington, he played basketball at Washington, he made the NBA. I mean, he was a cornerback, and he was great as a cornerback. So I mean, yeah, he wasn't the biggest guy in the world, but look, he turned it into, you know, a two-sport athlete who, you know, got his scholarship, and then, you know, could have gotten a scholarship in both sports, played for both teams, and then, you know, ended up playing in the NBA for a long time. So, I mean, yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, it can be done. So,
Love that.
It's amazing, Chris. Chris, we thank you for being on the show. We're 100%.
oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having
Awesome
me.
to hear your story and hear
Love
your
the story.
That was amazing. I think, wow, we talked a couple times. We talk randomly all the time. So, Chris, I thank you so much for being on the show. I hope
Oh, my pleasure, guys.
our viewers saw your
Appreciate it,
motivation,
for
your drive to be successful. And thank you for watching the final
You got
two.
it. Thank you guys for having me.
Peace.
Take care, guys.